Welcome, everyone. This is our last webinar of the year. And I don't know how many we've had this year, but I don't know, 5 or 6 maybe. We try to schedule these every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the year. Sometimes it gets a little bit longer than that. And we're always looking for presenters to talk about their work. So let us know if you're interested in presenting some of your work. That would be terrific. And don't forget to join the International System Dynamics Society. The link is here, and these slides with all of the links that I'll share with you on this slide and on the next one will be available on our website. But you can connect with the network of global systems thinkers and modelers, access all of not only our webinars, but every other chapter and interest groups webinars, sign up for the mentoring program, either as a mentee or mentor, read the entire historical archive of articles in SDR and other things. And then just finding out more info about our Oceania SDS chapter, System Dynamics Society chapter. Here are a whole series of links and one email to the chapter website, our email address, oceania@systemdynamics.org. That's the email to send if you're not getting the newsletters or the communications that you want to receive from us. You can link to subscribe to the newsletter. We have a LinkedIn page, and we've got recordings of all our previous webinars as well.
Shane, can I make a super quick plug? 30 seconds for the colloquium next year. Yes.
Yes, please.
Fantastic. So here in Melbourne at Melbourne Business School next February the 7th, Friday, February the 7th. Would love to receive submissions from researchers and practitioners who have work in progress to share with our community. It hasn't been revealed yet, but we're also thinking about having I'm going to call it a skill development workshop the day before, summer school-ish event. You'll see more about that in the forthcoming newsletter, but please do submit your abstracts so that we can put a program together. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for hosting this. That's brilliant. Abstracts are due the 20th of December. So please do get those in. And build this date of 7th of February into your calendar now in case you need to travel. All right. So with those few words of introduction and welcome back to our webinar series, it's now my great pleasure to hand it over to our speaker, Professor Sondoss Sawah. Sondoss, some of you know, but many of you may not, was recently promoted to professor at UNSW Canberra. So congratulations, Sondoss. That's terrific. She's director of the Capability Systems Center, and she's a professor in the School of Systems and Computing, as I said, at UNSW Canberra. She's going to talk to us about enabling and accelerating model-based decision support, reflections on opportunities, and the roadmap ahead. Over to you, Sondoss, to share your slides and to take it away.
Thanks, Shane, so much. Give me thumb up if you see my slides coming.
They're on the way. Yep, PowerPoint. Along with your notes.
That should be better.
There we go. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shane, and thanks, Hussein, and thanks everyone for having me today. I would really like to take this opportunity to share with you. I don't know why it started moving before I get started, but anyway, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you my reflections on how we could enable and accelerate model-based decision support. And when I share these reflections, I will be drawing on the multiple roles which I have served in, I would say, the whole modeling enterprise, whether as a researcher and a lead of a research team who was very active in the modeling and decision support systems business. As an educator, being here at UNSW, I had the privilege of leading the systems engineering program for 4 years and teaching systems thinking and modeling courses. So I'll be sharing with you some of these reflections, and as well as now being administrator in the university and looking after mentoring and coaching, I'll also be sharing with you my reflections on how institutional, I would say, structures enable or hinder model-based decision support. So I hope you will find this useful, and I would like this to be interactive as possible. So what I would like to do is I'll share with you some of my work around each one of those areas, but I will pause and I will put a question for you forward. So please jot down your ideas when I put this question so we can, if we have time at the end, I would love to hear back your thoughts around those questions that I'll be sharing with you. On this note, sit back and enjoy. So when I was thinking about this talk today and what really connects us as a community, I would say two themes that connect us. We are like-minded people who are very interested in solving complex problems and problems that have multiple stakeholders, uncertainty, ambiguity, whatever the characteristics of how you label these problems. And I wish that you on this word cloud, you can see an area where you are already working in. And I'm sure many of you are not only working in one area, maybe working in multiple areas. And that's what connects us here as modelers. The second theme which connect us is modeling. So when we try to solve these problems, we use models. And perhaps here, since we are in the systems dynamics chapter, we are talking about systems dynamics models. But my perspective and the area that I come from, we use a broader range of models, which could be simulation models, not only systems dynamics, but also conceptual models. So I will be, you'll find from my talk that I will be bringing different type of models to the discussion. So the fundamental question that I am personally interested in addressing through my research and education, and that's the question which I organized the talk around, is how can we effectively enable and accelerate the use of model-based decision support in solving complex problems. And the reason I'm saying accelerate, and I underlined it, it's because it's becoming a key word now. It's not just about solving the building a model quickly. It's about being able to provide input, to provide decision support at speed. Hussein, I don't know, but I'm losing control of the slides. They seem to be moving on their own. Is that how it's supposed to be?
No, I don't know what happens.
Okay. So I'm the only one in control of the slides?
Yes.
Okay. So this is pretty much the question which I will focus the talk around. And when I reflect on the different areas which try to address this question, I try to bring it down along this framework. It's my way of organize my thoughts and the work that I do. So I see 4 pillars. So pillar number 1 is around the integration. So there will be questions around the integration of knowledge. There will be questions around how we could implement these models in an effective and efficient way. There will be questions around how we could implement and deploy these models in the digital enterprise. Digital is now becoming, again, another keyword. It's not about just using models in their own right, but how these models are embedded in a larger enterprise architecture. And the last piece is around the whom. It's the capacity building and education, for whom we are building this model and by whom. So I will try to organize the answer to how we could enable and accelerate around those 4 areas. And while I'm doing this, I will share with you some of the work that I have been doing as examples. But as I said, I'll be also asking you questions around each one of those areas. Okay, so the first area is the what. It's around the knowledge integration, because I feel that I am preaching to the converted already here, but you know already that with the type of complex problems that you are all dealing with, that we are all dealing with, are complex. They defy particular disciplines. Let's take, for example, any sustainability, resource sustainability problems. It's not hydrology, it's not ecology, it's not social science, it's not technology. It is something that connects all of them. So the type of problems that we are dealing with need knowledge integration, needs the ability to bring knowledge from multiple disciplines, need to bring stakeholders together, need the ability to bring tools and methods and data of different types together. So the integration question is key. And I have focused some of my research program on integration as a research question in its own right. And today I would like to share with you 2 areas where I have focused on. Number 1, synthesis of knowledge. And I explain more what I mean by synthesis of knowledge. And the second area is building theoretical frameworks that enable us to do integration in a more clear and transparent way. And again, I explain this more. On the knowledge synthesis, if you look at the um, the modeling literature, and let me be more specific perhaps here and talk on the socio-environmental technical type of domain, you may find you may share the observation that I have is the literature is dominated by case studies, very good case studies, but they are still case studies that is located on a particular area, handling particular issues. They still solve a problem at a particular time and place, but how could you synthesize knowledge across all of these multiple case studies so you could provide input to move the dial? Because if you talk about, again, acceleration of the knowledge, we can't stop at the level of talking at desperate case studies. We need the ability to learn from all of these case studies and distill key learnings and lessons. This is personally one of the key areas that fascinate me as a researcher, and I spent some of my time doing synthesis research, leading research teams in Australia and internationally, bringing them together and around the table and asking the question around synthesis of knowledge. So people from multiple areas and come to answer this question. And I'm sharing here 2 examples, but there is, for example, on the left-hand side, we came together and synthesized knowledge in scenario modeling literature, and we identified a framework which articulate what those challenges are and what are the research directions that could be. This is one example. In another example on the right-hand side, again, we came together as researchers from multiple disciplines interested in the idea of models and socio-environmental systems, and we brought together the concept of the grand challenges in CS modeling. And we articulated what those grand challenges are. These are the areas where we need to focus so we can really move the dial on modeling in these areas. And we articulated the fundamental research questions that we need to start targeting in a systematic way if we really would like to make an impact. So this is an example of synthesis research where you bring all of this knowledge, whether from literature or from experts, and synthesize it in a way that can be useful to enlighten future research directions. So this is one example of areas. But from my experience, doing synthesis research full stop will not help us accelerate um, the modeling domain at a pace. So from my view is that there are 2 approaches here if we would like to make actual change. We could take the let it happen approach, like publish papers, leave it there and hope for the best, or we as researchers can be more active agents for change in terms of taking this synthesis research and driving community and funding efforts. Like, for example, in the grand challenges, I use this concept of the grand challenges to bring together a team from Australia and overseas, and we turned the concept of the grand challenges from a paper to an initiative, which brings together those societies to do a number of activities, to run seminars, webinars around the concept, each one of the grand challenge, run workshop sessions, organize special issues. And this is where it's not just about writing the papers and doing the research, it's about using the output from the research to drive change. And if you're interested to know more about the Grand Challenges Initiative and perhaps join it, please let me know, and we can discuss where the opportunities are. So this is the first theme, senses of research. The second theme, which I'm interested in, how we could build theoretical frameworks supported by case studies that showcase how actually knowledge integration happens. So I'm an editor-in-chief of Modeling and Simulation Journal, and I'm bombarded by the number of papers which we get every year, which claim innovation in integration. But what does it mean? Where is the integration happens? Especially when we start now with the AI wave, everyone plugs some AI algorithm and claim innovation in the integration. But what does it really mean? I wish I meet integration. So I think that's what I mean. We need to unpack when we mean by integration, how it happens, what are the assumptions and theories, and explain it in a more clear and coherent way. And perhaps an example I can share here is a work that I did with my colleagues back, I think, in 2017, where we did a very nice exercise. We've just focused on one area, which is water resource management as a case study. And we did bibliometric analysis to unpack where the integration, how people use the integration concept. Because in the theory that we will use is integration means social, economic, and environmental. That's the theory that the authors used in the paper. But actually, when we looked at the papers, most of the work there, they claim integration and they use the word integration, while actually the paper doesn't represent integration as the combination between economic, social, and environmental aspects. So was a clear, this is an example where we use the words, but the words mean different things for different people, and there is no theory which underpins how this integration happens or not. So I think, like what Bernard Shaw says, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. I think it's the same in integration. We use the word that integration happens, but actually it may not have happened in the first place. So one of the research areas that I focused on is how we can build these theoretical frameworks. And this is here one example from one of my PhD students, Zenia. This was her fundamental research question. She looked at how we could combine theories from systems thinking, from systems engineering, from future studies, and from defense studies in a coherent way, and how we could put this into case studies. So it's not just about another case study, it's about the theory and explanation of how these methodologies could come together. So it's really nice piece of work, and I encourage you, if you are interested in this work, is to go and look up Zenia's work, and she has progressed her own research in this area since she finished her PhD. So I think what I'm trying to get us to think here is we need fundamental work to happen for moving the dial on knowledge integration for modeling and decision support purpose. And my question back to us is, what else is needed? I shared with you two areas which I am interested in. I'll be keen to hear your own thoughts, and if you have any existing work that you are doing on the area of knowledge integration. So please jot down any thoughts and questions so we can discuss later. Okay, so if you remember, the first pillar is around the knowledge integration. The second pillar is around implementation. once you put this, bring the model together, how we could deploy these models in an effective way. And the two areas which I'm interested in is the area of practices, how we could share modeling practices, and the second area, how we could build modeling architecture. And I will talk about each one of them briefly. So the modeling practice, we all have our own modeling practices, things that we know that have worked, they work quickly, they work well. We tried them in different projects, and it's our bread and butter as modelers. But my observation again is that we are not very good in sharing those practices. Again, we like sharing case studies, writing paper around case studies, but what is this secrets, the craft? Modeling is usually presented as it's the art, but if it can't put into practical practices that we could document and share, it will be difficult for us to share experience, to learn, to teach, to educate, and build the speed. So I'm really keen on the idea of how we could take what is in the best modelers, the very experienced modelers' mind, all of this experience, how could we externalize it, and how we could put it in a way that we could share it. And this is what motivated some of the work that I have done with Ibrahim, one of my students, but he's now one of my colleagues, a postdoc here at UNSW, on the modeling patterns. And Ibrahim used this idea of a pattern as it's something that keeps recurring because this is the experience that we use. And he interacted with experts. In this case, it's in Bayesian network, but I guess there is still lessons that we could learn in general. And he distilled what those key practices could look like in different stages of the modeling process. He didn't stop at this. He actually put them into a language. So it's a way of capturing the interactions between those patterns. You can, again, the whole idea is to share this so people could add their practices. And if there is a link that I can share with you later, where you can go to the Ibrahim's wiki, look at his modeling practices, and if we can start adding to this in a systematic way, we are really, as a community, building our knowledge. Again, let me do some advertising here, but there is a part of not only doing the research spirit, but use the research to drive the community. So there is a special issue around good modeling practices. I and my colleagues, the guest editor, are very interested to elicit those nuts of gold that people have in their minds about those modeling practices. So please, if you have a paper submitted to this special issue, would love to have it published. And it's a joint special issue between the three journals that you have here. Okay, so the first thing is, as I said, it's about the practice, how we could identify and formalize and share them in a practical way. The second piece, which I focus some of my research around, is agile model development, because I learned early on, especially working in defense as a very practical, deliverable-oriented space, is that the model need to move quickly. Otherwise, people will move faster and the conversation will move faster and the model will not be useful. So how my focus has been on how we could build models at a speed that the model development could outpace the conversations that the stakeholders are having, so we could actually inform the process rather than we say, okay, you have a problem here, I will come back to you in 8-10 months with a prototype version. Guess what? In 8-10 months, people have already moved on and the decision brief has already elapsed. So I learned early on that we need to start cracking the idea of agile model development. We need to be able to build models at pace. So, and this is the area which my research team has focused lots of effort around. And then, as I said, this is anything I'm talking about here is not me. I'm really standing on the shoulders of the giants, all of the team who came together, software developers, industry specialists from defense background, researchers, building a library of modules that we could learn from and we could deploy in these different case studies. So we are as I like to think, we are building the sausage machine while not selling only the sausage, because it's important to think about the architecture and the library rather than just think about building specific models to build to address specific instance. It's a different mindset. If you say to yourself, I'm interested in the library, rather than I'm interested to go and solve this particular problem. And I always try to remind the team that we are here to think about the generic problem. What is the class of problems that we are dealing with rather than solve specific one? And once you get into this stage, it becomes it takes time at the beginning to build the architecture and build the library, but it pays dividends because you have already, once you get into this stage, you have the knowledge base that you can go. You have seen some of these modules before, you have seen some of these problems, you have developed some of these modules. I'm not saying that you will just be taking things off the shelf and selling them, but you would have the know-how to deal with it with speed. And this is an area that we have been trying to progress the research around. Okay, so again, this is my attempt to tackle the question of how could we become more agile, more effective in the implementation of deployment of these models. Share with me your insights. I would like to hear more about how your own research or attempts areas in making models more effective, more efficient. The third piece, which I would like to share with you, is the idea of the digital as a keyword. It's becoming a buzzword, but it's actually a buzzword for a good reason, because we would like to imagine a world where we are not only doing models as a specific service, we do modeling as a consultancy or as a research project and disappear. We would like these models to be embedded in the whole organization, becomes part of it as decision making fabric. So this is what I mean by the digital context. If you think about the future, everything will be digital, then and the enterprise will be digital by default. How our models sit within this digital context? Are we prepared? Have we thought about it? So I guess that's what I'm trying to nudge the community to start thinking about. And there are two areas which I would like to share with you. The first one is around human-machine teaming, and the second one is models as digital assets. So human-machine teaming is an area that is growing in interest. I'm the good company of computer scientists and AI here in my school. But I try to leverage their expertise in thinking around how we could use AI to support the modeling process. It's not new. Actually, AI has been used in the modeling process for years. And I was just saying we are bombarded by papers claiming innovations in AI and modeling. But I would say that the way we are using AI, we are using it as a utility. Like, for example, use an algorithm to make for optimization purpose, calibration. But the way the AI has, the pace by which AI development has moved, like, for example, Hussein, just before we started, he said that he can put now to ChatGPT, can you give me a bio for Sondoss? And they will give you the bio. It's no longer just a servant or a utility. We are getting into the stage where we need to start thinking about the AI as a teammate. And this is what the AI community talks about. This is a concept that is well developed in the AI community. But have we thought about this concept and what it means to the modeling community? So in this paper that I'm sharing with you here on the screen, there was a question around what are the different levels by which the human-machine teaming can happen and how it could apply in the modeling concept. We were not providing answers. We were only raising questions. Like, for example, this could start from the human in the loop. So the human is involved in everything, or human over the loop. So the AI is doing everything and the human is is the supervisor. Down to human is outside the loop and you are giving the AI just go and do the modeling process. I don't like to be thinking this way, but I guess this is a future that we will be embracing too. And I have been monitoring the SDR journal, and there are very good innovations now around using AI to automate the whole CLD process development. So I guess there is a question for us now to pause and think about what this concept mean for us, and what does it mean in terms of the skills of the modelers who will be involved at each level? Are there any ethical questions that we need to be thinking about and preparing ourselves for different levels of human machine teaming employed in the modeling business? So I think read this paper with the mind of this is the questions that we need to start thinking about. The other piece, which is the digital engineering piece, and this is a few of us here are already connected to the systems engineering community, which is very sister discipline, and they have the same problems that we have. But really, in the systems engineering community, they started over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years to come into this concept of digital engineering, where they, if you look at their definition, I would say it's a definition that it should interest all of us, because it talks about integration of data, models, and knowledge to enable decision support across the whole life cycle of complex systems. So I think this is something that of interest of all of us, and that's why digital engineering is an area which we started to look at, because their vision is not about using models in an ad hoc way. They are interested in integration of the whole use of models across the whole life cycle asset. This is very important for us as a modeling community, because if we start to think about models as digital assets, this is a game changer. How could you acquire models, how you should maintain models, how you should certify models, how should you retire models, how should you curate models? The whole, if you think of the model itself as a digital asset, then there is a whole life cycle questions that will start popping up around models. So we need to start thinking, what does it mean for us and for the skill sets that we have as a modelers? So again, this is an area which I am personally interested in, and we're trying to look at what those other research areas that connects modeling and digital engineering. And I'm sure you know Emilia, she's leading this effort at UNSW Canberra at this stage. Again, my question back for you is, what else is needed? I'm sure you have your own digital transformation challenges. What do you hear at your end about what this challenge means for us as modelers, and what can we do? I'll be keen to hear more from you about this. The last piece, and this is when I will take off my researcher hat and I will put in my teacher, educator, administrator hat, is the capacity building and the education. By whom we are building these models and for whom. And I think there are two areas here which are very important. First of all, we need to recognize, formulate, and reward modeling related competencies. What does it mean to be a modeler? And different modeling disciplines have their own competency frameworks, including the systems dynamics. They have the systems dynamics modeling competency. So is this specific to each modeling discipline, or there are overarching themes that is connected across, regardless of we are doing systems dynamics or discrete event? What does it mean? And again, if we add the digital piece to become interesting, do we need to acquire new skills? Do we still need to be good coders to be good modelers, or we can drop this now because we have an AI teammate coming, so we can delegate this and we can need to be better at other things? I guess there is a question, ongoing questions as a field, and this is a healthy sign of a field to keep asking the question, what those competencies are. So I wrote this paper because I was personally frustrated when I started teach systems thinking and modeling here at UNSW Canberra, is how can I learn from all of those good teachers that I know teaching systems thinking and modeling? What is the good and bad practice when it comes to teaching systems thinking? I couldn't find them. Again, it's part of sharing the knowledge. I had to go look at the courses. I'd have to talk to people, but I didn't find good solid papers. Well, there are a few, but I couldn't find at least a literature review paper which synthesize this is all of the education-related side of systems thinking and modeling. So that's why I wrote this paper out of frustration, is because I said, okay, if I'm going to do the literature review myself, I better write it, document it, and share it with people, because this probably someone else will come and ask the same questions. So in this paper we tried again to synthesize everyone who wrote something around teaching systems thinking and modeling. We brought it, synthesize it, so we can think about where are the gaps, where are those areas we need to focus on. But we try to take it one step and say, okay, we need to publish more about our courses. We need to share our teaching. We can't just teach our research if we would like to move the modeling community. So we shared here a template, a conceptual template, which help people, because not all of us come from a teaching experience. But what does it mean to put your course into a template that can someone look at it and learn? So that was a one baby step to bridge the gap and help people perhaps to start sharing their courses in a structured way, so we can look all of it, at it and learn from each other. And I know few people actually started using the template. So please, if you can try it, share insights with me, that would be fantastic. The other piece I was talking about, the competencies, what the competencies mean, and are these competencies related to each systems dynamics discrete event, whoever is doing particular modeling technique, or there are those overarching modeling competencies that we need to focus on. So this is another area. So again, another paper out of frustration that my colleagues here and I came together, and we was like over those coffee breaks and conferences talking about why some people are very good in doing this and some others. What are those skills that we need and how we could teach better? So we wrote this competency. We call it, we shied away from calling it a competency framework because it is not. We call it, what are those core competencies that is needed for someone who would like to do modeling with stakeholders? And that's very interesting, because even in the modeling with the stakeholders, people use different terminology. There is collaborative modeling, and there is a whole community doing collaborative modeling. There is participatory modeling community. There is the group model building community. So even across the same community, there are tribes around modeling with the stakeholders actually happen. So we looked at this literature, we tried to synthesize and distill what we thought are those core modeling skills that are needed. And we ran this survey. We reached out for those societies. So hopefully we got the chance to fill this survey, and we asked people, can you rate for us which skill is needed for which role? Because as you know, modeling is a team sport. It's not one man, one woman business. So how these skill sets play at different stages for different roles in the modeling process. So we try to get more understanding of what those skills are, and hopefully someone could take this work and build on it and validate it and add more detail. But again, building capacity in modeling, and this is when I'll take off my educator, and perhaps this is more of a administrator in a university context hat. We all know that this is more than, we need more than research if we would like to attract talents in the modeling. As I started at the beginning saying, we are all well-rounded people. We have interest in a broad range of topics. We have interest in all of this class of complex problems. But unfortunately, and I'm qualifying my comments here to the university context, I'm not making generalizations, but still universities recognize giraffes. So giraffes are, they have long necks. They can reach the top of the tree. And they have their core discipline in a particular area. And still the universities like to favor giraffes, people who are hardcore scientists in a particular area. But I would say an elephant like me, an elephant is a person who is not necessarily hardcore in a particular, but they have their breadth and their expertise in the breadth. If you are an elephant like me, universities don't recognize us easier. giraffes are still rewarded and recognized. So, and there is even one, if you would like to take the zoo metaphor a bit, there is also in my team, I have crocodiles. So crocodiles are not even academics. They are experts who come from industry, but have very, I would say, marvelous ability to move between the domains seamlessly, but they are not academics. So how, but we need them. They have the outstanding ability to translate the problem back and forth between us and the stakeholders, talk their language, understand their needs. Unfortunately, universities don't recognize elephants and crocodiles as they recognize giraffes. We reward, celebrate interdisciplinary researchers and modelers once they reach a particular stage in their career, but at the junior stage, they are not really recognized. And I worry about losing people and talent who give up because they don't find the job security to keep doing the important interdisciplinary work that they need. And I think that takes me back to the education and teaching, because the more courses and the more it is recognized in the teaching and education, this is the way by which we can start supporting the research careers of those junior researchers. But also we need mentoring, coaching, and we try to do this all the time. So make sure that we are attracting and saving this talent. Hussein, how well I'm doing with time? Okay, you are muted. I still have a couple of minutes if that's okay. Okay. So I think my question back for all of us, how could we accelerate education and capacity building in the area of modeling and simulation, and how we could build this capacity at scale, because we need these critical skill sets. Well, I think let me go end where I started. So this is the framework, which at least this is my way of thinking, and I shared with you here. This ticket is just my own modest attempts to address some of this. But I would love to hear more from you. I actually have a Miro page if you like, and if you start adding your own stickies, I would love to hear your thoughts. I like to think that this could be a basis for, again, synthesizing our knowledge around how we could answer this fundamental question of how could we enable and accelerate the use and impact of model-based decision support in solving the complex problems that we are dealing with. Well, on this note, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have got some value out of this. Over to you back, Hussein.
All good. I think Jackie wants to have the Miro link, if you can share.
Absolutely, Jackie. We'll drop you the link.
And Shane, do you want to go ahead with the questions, or?
Hussein, you go ahead, please.
Okay.
You are
so
expert
thank
facilitating.
You. No worries. We have one question from Stefan in the chat. I would be interested in hearing Sondoss' view on the importance of people, modelers, and users, and culture, and how to achieve alignment in this dimension beyond the technical side.
Thanks, Stefan. I think from my observations, that when it comes, there are few areas where we as a modelers need to pump up a bit. First of all, they are not technical, project management. And especially if you are in a delivery kind type environment where it's not, you're not doing modeling for an R&D purpose, but there is a tangible product that will be delivered for a client. The ability to, we tend to think as modelers, as modeling is this life, like the cyclic Sturman view, all of this modeling life cycle as the cycle, but in the real world, it's not a cycle. It is a project that has a start date, end date, milestones, and payments attached to milestones. So how could you break down what seems to be an iterative, cyclic, everything connected, I have all the time to do, build it, to bring it down into a project-specific deliverables that still recognize that the model could grow, but at the same time, you are delivering something of value at every point in the process. This is a knack that I think the earlier we learn it, the better. The other piece is the software, the object-oriented view of the world. And some of us have already this view, some of us take, I guess this is where our background comes in, because as modelers, we come from different walks of life. Some of us come from the engineering, some of us come from the domain. But I find that if we have this object-oriented view, and this software engineering view, it helps develop professionally delivered models, and it helps again with the project management side. I'm not sure if I have answered your question, Stefan.
Yeah.
But please
Stefan,
jump in and have a conversation if you like.
Stefan, do you want to add something?
I can't see the share, so I'm...
It's okay. Yes, thank you, Sondoss. I guess that my observation is that a lot of the users are often people who are not from a project management and agile and technical background. And so the question is, but yet without their needs, the project wouldn't exist, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
And so how do you achieve it? And it's perhaps a rhetorical question. How do we achieve alignment and build a culture of using information and being part of the process when they're not technical experts? Yeah.
I think the onus is on us on how to communicate and engage them. They may not be engaged in the model itself, but we need to find ways of getting them engaged. I see few hands up, so I will leave it to Hussein to prioritize.
Yep. So before that, Sondoss, could you please stop sharing so that we can
Absolutely.
Yeah. The next one is, I guess, Russell.
Thanks, Hussein. Hi, Sondoss.
Hi, Russell. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, congratulations on your promotion, by the way. I did not know that.
Thank you.
A sort of a question, or more of a comment, or maybe even agreement. You talked about the grand challenges, and two of them from your SESMO paper from 2020. I'm just looking at my notes on the back of an envelope here. Integrating the human dimension and elevating the adoption of the models in impact and policy were the ones that really struck me. And I think they continue to not haunt me, but to sort of challenge how we go about these models and maybe why we develop these models. I'll just focus on one of them. What do you think about the challenges in terms of integrating the human dimension, particularly in the face of this sort of digital transformation that's going place, which might even sort of, I don't know, it almost seems to me it might even marginalize the sort of the human dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it is grand challenge, because it is an area where needs systematic big research to make an impact. What does it mean to integrate? I guess that's the fundamental question.
Yeah.
We say integrate the human dimension. What does it mean?
I think there's a tendency, to my mind, that we seem to fall back on the participatory modeling as one way, or we go to some sort of theoretical framework or economic framework and say, well, we're going to include in our model the human dimension through macroeconomics and that sort of approach.
Exactly.
And so I'm interested in how we can better include the human dimension in our models, because I think the environmental stuff is fairly straightforward. It's easy to model. Well, I say easy, it's quite relatively straightforward to model, say, an oyster in the water. But as to why someone might then go and pick that oyster, how do we determine why they might decide to do that? What are the heuristics? So that's I'm keen to catch up at some stage and talk more about it.
No, absolutely. And that's the research question, really, Russell. I mean, if you look at the social science, from this paper, the social scientists would say we have very mature theories which explain why people behave in a particular way. But we still fall into the rational economic type assumptions in the model. We need to move in these directions of how we can bring these models. It always falls in the too hard basket with future research directions basket. But it's time to start that's why it is grand challenge. We need to start bringing these theories and use it in our models with all
Thank
of
you.
the challenges and difficulties.
Thanks, Sondoss. I'll pass on the baton to the next question.
Yeah, Shane.
Great, thanks. So, Sondoss, I have a little bit of a, I don't know whether it's a tangential question or not. So, if it's not something that you have an answer off the cuff, then we can take it up later offline. But I'm curious about, you've got a team and a group built at UNSW Canberra around modeling and systems thinking and modeling. And I wonder if there's any insights that you might share with others about how to build and or sustain such groups, because for me, one of the fundamental things in advancing modeling and system dynamics as a field, and more broadly modeling and the appreciation of modeling, is to have some groups where we tend to be one person, oftentimes just one person, maybe with one or more PhD students at each institution, and so if you have any insights, it'd be great to hear them.
You don't know how I am wearing this because you can't see how many white hair there. The idea of sustaining and paying salaries, but I will do my best, Shane. I think one of the things that we did well here that kept sustaining us is we embraced early on the concept of academic consultancy. What this means, usually people will shy away. We don't do consultancy, or they have this separation in their mind between this is consultancy work and this is research. And I agree, there is a line. But in terms of when it comes to funding groups, we need to have the ability to deliver something of value at the professional standards to a client. This is not an R&D project. This falls into, that's why I fall back on what I talked about: project management, delivery, product development. And this is where I see more of the consultant work. It's a delivery for a specific client with a specific needs. But we are different, and this is what I keep reminding myself and the team, is that we have research questions that is driving this. We are not here to sell the sausages. We are here to build the sausage machine. So the sausage machine is the research, but we still need to sell the sausages, because the sausages is what will keep the light on. So as long as we are keeping this, we are not just going for let's get the projects. Projects are not connected with a theme or an idea. We will easily fall into, we are just doing delivery, which we need to do the delivery. But I try also, part of our thinking is what is success? So success is delivery on time, on budget, on quality. We don't negotiate this. But also there are success that something for us as a team, which is publication out of the project that we were involved in. So as long as we are keeping that, make sure that we are publishing and we are doing the research that is using this project as a case study to enable us to answer these research questions, we are able to keep the balance. It's easy to say, hard to do, Shane. But when I reflect back, I think this is the one thing that is keeping us, that we are really thinking around the two dimensions, not only thinking of ourselves as consultants or researchers, but we are embracing the two identities. Have I answered your question, Shane?
I think so. I have two very minor specific follow-ups, which is, how many courses do you have in degree award program courses in modeling, broadly speaking, that sort of your group carries the teaching load for? And then how many full-time faculty, in FTEs? Is it 2.5 or 3 do you have?
We have 4 FTE. And we have 4 courses in the modeling area. But that's one, I guess that's part of the embracing new ways of doing things, is that we are embracing the lifelong learning space. So it's not only about the awarded degrees. And maybe for the non-UNSW stuff here, lifelong learning is anything that is not falling under the traditional PG, undergraduate, postgraduate. So how could we do this lifelong learning, engaging again with the clients, teaching them outside the degree format? So that's how we are surviving so far.
Great, thanks,
Maybe if you
Sondoss.
ask the question next year, who knows?
Thank you.
Okay, I think the last one will be Miriam.
Miriam.
Thanks, Hussein. Thank you, Sondoss. This was so very interesting. I very early on in my PhD, I was told to reach out to you, and now I completely understand why. So I might reach out to you. So I do my PhD in how to build capacity for systems thinking as a stepping stone in the practice realm, in order to reach out to people that are modelers. And so I guess I'm a bit of a crocodile. So I come from change and transformation, and then did system dynamics, and then came back out and thought no one understands what it is. No one even understands what systems thinking is. And so yeah, I'm really interested in your notion of the crocodiles, because so I guess I'm a big believer in the feedback loop back from practice to academia, which I think is often missing, where there might be more consensus actually, because either things work or they don't. It's bit binary sometimes. So I wonder, you had so many different collaborations, and I'm assuming there'll be either the lifelong learning paper or the crocodiles in your teams, whether there were any particular skill sets or professions that you'd found particularly helpful that were not modelers, but I'm thinking of things like change managers, project managers, these kind of skills that are outside, and sometimes we forget that you don't have to have all the skills in the single person, but they can be distributed in a team. So I was curious if you have anything to share.
Absolutely. I think I would say that watching the crocodiles in my team, they have very good skill in communication. So they will tell you, I will go and talk to them about the model. They will show them the results. I was like, what does this mean? And so what? And they will challenge us hard about what does it mean for the decision that we are trying to support. What the implication, and so what? It is a question that drives me crazy, but I think that's the most important question. So what? What does it mean for those guys? Why are you showing them these numbers? So the ability to communicate the results from the model in context, I think that's important, and distill all of the work into 2 slides. So don't talk to me about the causal loop diagrams. This is in the big reports that if someone needs to see it, we will show it. But they have the ability to bring it down into what they call the decision brief. This is the 2 slides that we need to show to our client. But again, please take all of the things that I'm sharing with you in a context. This is the context where I operate. I operate in this national security defense. So I'm not generalizing. Please put this, again, practices in the context where I have learned and applied them. So in our space, you have the attention of the whatever 2-3 stars for 5 minutes. What the two slides that need to be there? What is the key message? Don't talk about diagrams and uncertainty, and that's for another day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time. Julius, if you can ask a quick question.
Just a quick one. I think Sondoss just sort of partly answered that. Because it brings me to the question of I think Russell, yourself and myself have discussed this about building the models with those users or stakeholders, and also teaching them how to use the models. I don't know what your experience in that, because it has not always worked with some of the workshops we've run, where especially if you want to go with stock and flow, building people capacity, and you go that angle, it doesn't always go well. As opposed to just going the basic system thinking, getting them to think and look at problems differently. That seems to go well. At least it helps them in their decision making. I don't know whether you've had any experience on that in terms of involving some of these stakeholders in sort of model building process.
Yep, absolutely. I always say the clients value the journey as well as the destination. The journey itself is useful. I guess my comment, again, from where my context is, the way we engage the stakeholders need to suit their needs. So we do, if not necessarily the stock and flow diagram is the way they would like to be engaged. Sometimes we just send them a series of questions, they answer them, we use we develop the model. We're still developing the model with them, but it doesn't have to be in the, I guess there are different ways of do this, and I would, it's always about what does this person need, not what I need or what I think they need. If we start by this, I think that would maybe change the game a bit.
Thank you so much. Any concluding remarks, Sondoss, you want to add?
No, thanks, Hussein, for having me. That was very happy hour for me.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you all for attending today's webinar. I think we don't have another one for December or January. So the next event will be the symposium. Hope we can see you in Melbourne.
Thanks, everyone. You go and have a good holiday.
Thank you so much. See you, everyone.
Thank
ya.
you, Sondoss.
Thanks,
Bye.
Sondoss.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Sondoss.
Hussein.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.